welcome back to my channel. My name is Morgan. So hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a monthly wrap-up. We're actually going to be doing like a span of 2 months with my wrap-up. We're going to be talking about all the books that I read in January and February. Today is March 3rd. So I decided to combine these 2 months because I've only read 4 books this year so far. My goal for Goodreads is to have 35 books read by the end of the year, which would be a definite increase from last year because last year I read 20 books. So if I go by my Goodreads, I'm actually 1 book behind schedule, which is technically on schedule. So me having read 4 books is still good for my goal. And so we're just gonna talk about all the books that I've read so far. So the very first book that I read this year was a YA contemporary called Looking for Alaska. Now I did end up rating Looking for Alaska 3 stars. I don't know, it didn't do too much for me. Like super quick, it is based on a boarding school and our main character's name is Miles, but everyone calls him Pudge. He meets a lot of friends and one of the friends that he meets, her name is Alaska. So they become friends, and she has this like saying or this quote from an author, and it's something like, "How will I ever get out of this labyrinth of suffering?" I think is the quote. And pretty much throughout the book, I think that quote is very resonant in the characters and just them going through life. By the end of the book, Alaska dies. And her friends, Miles and their friend group, they are trying to figure out how she died. If it was suicide or if it was an accident, because she did die in a car wreck, and the way she died was super like weird. And that half of the book they're trying to figure out, you know, was it an accident or did she actually try to kill herself, and why? And of course that sort of goes back to how will they ever get out of this labyrinth of suffering, because throughout this whole book she was super down on herself, and you could see that she wasn't in the best headspace, and they did fear that it might have been suicide. And by the end of the book it's still pretty wishy-washy. I mean, we never get a definite answer. It was a nice starting book for the year. It was a pretty quick read. But yeah, like I said, I did give that 3 stars. And yeah, the second book I read, oh yeah, and for Looking for Alaska, I don't actually own that book. I read that on Libby, which is an app that I recently got a couple months ago that I've been using quite a lot when it comes to just not feeling the need to buy a book. Like Looking for Alaska, I didn't care to own that and, you know, spend money to have that book on my shelf, so I decided to get it on Libby. But some books that I want to read, I do want to own, so I go out of my way and I buy them. But for that book, I didn't feel the need to do that. Now, for the second book this year, I read You, which, if you guys know You, it is currently a Netflix original TV show, and it's also based on a book, actually a book series, and this is the first book in that series. So this book is a adult thriller. Yeah, it's an adult thriller. And quickly, this is based on our main character. His name is Joe Goldberg, and you could, I mean, I don't truly know the correct definitions of these terms, but he is somewhat of a sociopath and a psychopath, and you could say he's a serial killer as well. I think you could, I don't know. He's a killer at the very least. And he works in a bookstore, and in the beginning of the book, a woman walks into the bookstore, and her name is Guinevere Beck. So he sees this woman, and he is just automatically in love with her. Like he just becomes very quickly obsessed with her. He begins stalking her. You know, he finds where she lives, and he goes there every day and just watches her. Just, you know, bumps into her at these random places. And throughout the whole book, he is just completely set in his mind that that he's in love with her and that she must love him. You know what I mean? And you know, in this book, he's trying to get her to fall in love with him at any means possible, and that involves and includes killing people just to get closer to her. Very, very creepy. Spoiler alert, he does end up killing her at the very end of the book, which is freaking insane. Like, he's actually insane. And the creepy part about this whole thing is he's over here falling in love with her, you know, becoming obsessed with her, stalking her throughout this whole book. By the end of it, you know, she realizes how crazy he is because she finds out that he has killed her friends and people that she knows, and so she's done with him once, you know, there's nothing to do with him. She tries to escape, he kills her, and then like the next day he's in his bookstore and he finds a new girl that he's obsessed with, and I'm just like, this is never gonna end. Like, every season the girl's gonna die, he's gonna kill her. Like, what the fuck? So I will not be continuing this book series. It was an interesting read, definitely something I've never read about before, super weird, but I also rated this 3 stars. And yeah, I got this book off of Book Outlet, so it was super cheap. You guys should watch my Book Outlet haul that I had that includes this book that I bought. So the third book that I read this year is called We Were Liars, and I also do not own that book. That is another book that I read on Libby. Another quick read. This was also a YA contemporary book. And I found this book out just by being on TikTok, and there's so many, like, you know, quick little clips about, you know, books you should read and books that will break you and make you cry and move you and change you. And that was one of the books that was a constant on like everyone's list. So I was like, I definitely have to check this book out. So I got it on Libby. I started reading it. I didn't like it. I know, I didn't like it. It was way overhyped, to the point where I'm confused as to who read that. Like, I'm confused as to, you know what, I'm not confused, I know. What I'm trying to say is I'm not that easy to just make cry. Like, you have to really do some shit to make me cry over a book. You know what I mean? You have to break me. You have to break me, all right? Like, you have to actually do some crazy shit. So that book did not do it for me. It didn't make me teary-eyed. It didn't really stir up any emotion at all. It was just weird, and it was just like, okay. So yeah, in this book we're following this character. I don't even remember her name. I think it was Cadence. I'm pretty sure it was Cadence. So Cadence is a teenager, and her family's rich, and every summer her family, they own an island with different houses up there that different family members live in during the summer. And the book just takes place during the summer, and she's living in her house on the island with her family. She got hurt like a couple summers back, and she lost some of her memory. And you know, throughout this whole book, she's trying to figure out what happened, you know, those 2 summers ago. Like, how did I get hurt? What don't I remember from that summer? What the hell is going on? Throughout the whole book, no one is telling her anything. They won't tell her, you know, what happened, why it happened, what she's not knowing. They won't tell her anything. And then of course, you know, fast forward, spoiler alert, by the end of it, we find out that some of her cousins had actually died a couple of summers ago. That was what had transpired. And she had not known that because she lost her memory. And by the end of the book, we find out that the current summer that she's living through, trying to figure out what happened those a couple summers ago, she's been seeing her cousins, but they haven't actually been real. Like, they're just, but it's weird because the way the book made it feel as though they were actually ghosts and not just figments of her imagination. Like, the way they were talking made me feel like they were actual ghosts that only she could see, but it could have just been, you know, a figment of her imagination. At the end of the day, they both mean the same thing. Her cousins are dead. And the way her cousins died, it was so just weird and sad and just ugh. But I won't talk about that. But yeah, I also gave that 3 stars. Like I said, I mean, this year so far, like I've said, I've read 4 books, and none of the books that I've read have been that great. so I'm still waiting. Anyways, the fourth book that I read this year, last book that I had like truly finished, is this book. This is called Lily de Jong. Super pretty book. I am obsessed with it. This is a adult historical fiction book. I had actually never heard of this book before I bought it. I got this also on Book Outlet during the same haul that I got you from. So let's see, Lily de Jong, our main character, her name is Lily. We are in the 1800s in Philadelphia. Lily is a Quaker and she is in her early 20s. So this book focuses on a little part of her life. I mean, if you can imagine, the 1800s, you're a woman, you're a Quaker. It's looked down upon if you're not married or if you have kids out of wedlock, and that is what happens to her. She becomes pregnant. The man who she had relations with promised that they would get married before they even had relations. But she had relations with him, and then he says he has to go and work in a different city. So he leaves to go work, and then she finds out she's pregnant. And she tries to contact him, but there's no way to contact him. She doesn't have any contact information at all. So she's here alone, unmarried, early 20s, pregnant. No one in her house can know about this because it's looked down upon and she'd be shunned and hated. So she leaves her home. She goes into this charity for, what do they call it? This charity for wronged women to deliver her child. So she delivers her child at this charity, and I mean, this charity is a place where you go for your pregnancy, and after your pregnancy is over and you deliver that baby, the baby goes up for adoption and you go back to your life without anyone knowing what even transpired but the people at the charity. That's how that works. But by the time she gave birth, she actually fell in love with her baby and couldn't see herself letting her baby go, so she ends up keeping her. And throughout this whole book, she is just trying to survive. I mean, she is grinding her ass off to get money. It is difficult as hell. It is sad. It is just so depressing how much just random people hate her because she is not married and because she has a baby. There's a quote in the beginning of this book. Before the story even starts, there's actually a report from a hospital in the 1800s, and it pretty much talks about the fact that people will be people will have more sympathy towards burglars, people who have malice thoughts, and even murderers. They will have more sympathy for them than they will an unmarried person who is about to an unmarried woman who is about to become a mother. And that it was definitely showcased throughout this book, just how everyone she met just looked down on her, hated her, wouldn't help, just all the shit that you think could happen transpired. And it was sad. It was sad, but it was good, but it was sad, but at the same time it was a little boring, but it was good. I also gave this 3 stars. And yeah, so those are the 4 books that I have completely finished this year. I am currently reading a book called Golden Sun, which is the 2nd book in the Red Rising trilogy. I'm obsessed with this book series. I love Darrow. I love him so much. It's crazy. I'll talk about this book later after I finish it, but I am doing a reading vlog of this book. It's probably not out yet, maybe in a couple days. But yeah, I'm doing a reading vlog of this book. I'm almost done with it. I am pretty sure this is going to be a 5 stars. It's absolutely amazing. I love it. But like I said, my goal is 35 books. I've read 4, almost done with my 5th one. I am on track with my Goodreads, challenge. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below, subscribe, let me know what you want to see next. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.